Good day, good sir.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
September
September.
already. What does September mean to you?
Cooler weather.
Cooler weather?
Yeah, and crazy people getting excited about Christmas and
Christmas.
Halloween.
Months away, months away. But so what does September mean to me? It means birthdays. It means back to normalcy, hopefully, maybe in the real estate market and tomato season. To talk about normalcy, there's no surprise that the month of August was slower. It typically is. So, when you look at the months of inventory or whether a market's balanced or a buyer's market, in every single region we service, it has increased to more of a buyer's market than it was the month before. In my notes, I attribute that to three different things before people get depressed about the market. Number one, people are usually off work, their kids are off school, they're vacationing, they're enjoying the summer months, and real estate takes a back seat or in the back burner in a lot of
As
people's
we covered
cases.
in the previous market
That's
updates,
right.
right? We're
That's
still
right.
into that kind of later summerish.
That's right.
So there's still a little bit of that going on.
Exactly. Number two, the heat. In this particular year, we had a very, very hot summer. And it seemed like in a lot of cases, breathing was affected. The heat took a lot more out of the life of just not just the grass and the gardens, but also out of people. They wanted to stay put in maybe air conditioning. It wasn't as much of a priority.
Yeah.
Lastly, I would say the third thing is just the whole market uncertainty. There's still the tariffs, there's still, pricing and interest rates, and cost of living is just, expensive across the board. So I think those three things contributed to a quieter than normal summer. But today's monthly newsletter video, you wanted to talk about three of the most commonly asked questions for buyers and three of the most commonly asked questions for sellers. So why don't you start and tell me what you've summarized here?
Yes, from being out and about with the buyers and the sellers, you get the reoccurring questions, like you mentioned.
Yes,
And the first one, especially, with these first time home buyers, how much is your down payment? How much do you really need,
good
and
question.
some of your closing costs that are associated with
Yes,
that. So,
yes.
yeah.
So is it still? I'm sure it's still 5% down payment as a minimum down payment for a buyer. Correct.
Yes. So from 0 to $500,000, you can go as low as 5%. And then from 500 up to a million or just about, because they just changed the numbers,
Yes.
then you do a 10% on that amount.
What that means, folks, is that as a buyer in general, depending on the price you're buying, you may need between 5 and 20% down
Yeah.
as a minimum down payment. Now, naturally, the more you put down, the lower your mortgage would be, and the more equity you would have in the home per se. And is it safe to say that less cost? Because if you make it to, I believe it's still 20% down payment, then that avoids any extra mortgage insurance because you have a
Yeah.
lower ratio mortgage as opposed to a high ratio mortgage.
That's
So
right. As soon as you
so
clear that 20%,
20%,
there's no
there's no
insurance.
insurance, which adds to the cost. They roll that into the mortgage, but it's still, you're paying for it in a
That's right.
roundabout way.
Which makes for higher
Now, what about
payments.
land transfer tax? Like, how's that work? That's not avoidable, I guess, regardless of price of the home. But if you're a first time buyer, then there's still the land transfer tax rebate, I
Yeah.
imagine.
The
So
land transfer tax rebate, you have to pay the land transfer tax every time you're a buyer.
yes,
So when for transferring the title into you, it's the government just says, "Hey, congratulations, you bought a house. So you need
that's
to
right.
give us a little gift as a thank you." So there's a certain brackets of numbers depending on the
It's
purchase
a sliding
price.
scale,
It's a
basically.
sliding
Yes,
scale.
yes.
So your maximum reimbursement amount is $4,000
Okay.
for first-time home buyers
And the lawyer would do that at the time of
at
closing.
the
You
time
pay
of
it, and it gets
closing.
adjusted at the
Yeah.
time of closing.
Now, in order to be qualified as first-time home buyer,
Yes.
you can never have owned a property anywhere in the world.
It doesn't reset a clock
It
after so many
there's
years.
no 4 year reset like some of the banking first time home buyers.
Right.
For your saving plans for your first time home buyers, there's a 4 year clock. That's not the case with the land transfer tax rebates. It's another question that we get asked a lot is it a good time to buy? We're not talking about the best time to buy because nobody can really say
No.
yay or nay. It's the best time to
Nobody
buy.
has a crystal ball to know
But
exactly, but
is it a good time to buy? And
and
I
I would
think
sound a resounding yes.
the question is a really easy answer. It's a yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Between the interest rate being low, between the purchase price being
Yeah.
low, the buyer's market giving a lot of negotiating power and
Absolutely.
being able to be in that driver's seat as far as negotiation goes.
My note, with more than 4 months of inventory, in other words, a buyer's market, it just means longer market times. Homes are sitting, stronger negotiating power for buyers. In most cases, homes are still selling, but buyers are able to negotiate a good deal with conditions of financing, sale of a house, perhaps. They have a condition of home inspection, which we haven't always seen in this market, have we? So I
Not in the
think,
last 3 years,
yeah.
anyways.
So I think that, so what I guess what you're saying is that I wouldn't discourage somebody that also has a house to sell to also buy, because sellers are willing to look at offers that do have condition of sale or
Yes.
condition of financing or inspection. So these are the
They're willing
typical.
to, that's right, they're willing to entertain some offers conditional on the sale of the home. Now, it's not ideal for the buyers or the sellers, so don't, make any mistakes there, but
Yeah, because that was going to lead to my next question, which I know is going to come under the seller's category. Is it best to sell first and then buy, or buy first and then sell? How about we get to that when we talk about sellers,
yeah.
shall we?
Well,
Yeah.
we can get to the
So
sellers right now, actually.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Should I sell first, Max, or should I buy first, Max?
I mean, there's always going to be some individual circumstance,
Everybody's
but for the most part,
situations.
you should absolutely try to sell first, given that it's going to be a tougher sale. Some people can be a bit afraid of being homeless, but that's not going to
Right.
happen. There's so many things that we can do to accommodate finding a new place for you. Even just making the closing date a bit longer than usual,
Yes.
and a lot of people are fairly okay with that. It gives plenty of time, especially in an high inventory
There seems to be
market.
enough inventory that they will find
Finding a
something.
home is not going to be
Is
a
not the
problem.
issue. Yeah.
Is making sure that you know exactly how much you can get for your house, and getting it sold is going to be the bigger
That's an
problems.
important factor, because if you do sell first, then you'll know exactly what kind of money you're working with in order to make your next purchase. And I always say to my clients, everything is relative. You may sell for a little less than you were hoping or wanting, but you're also buying lower as well too.
Yeah.
So things being relative, you might sell your home for a little less money, but you're getting a better deal. So it evens out in the wash.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
assuming you're staying in the area, assuming
That's
you're
right.
staying in the
Yeah.
same market,
Now, ideally, if somebody was coming from a more expensive area to our area,
then
they'd
even
be in
better.
an even better situation. Okay, great. Next question.
So, what is the best pricing strategy right now?
Wow. It's always been, I think, price is paramount. Buyers nowadays in this buyer's market are looking for value. There's no question. Now, what do I mean by value? Does it mean that it's underpriced? No, not necessarily. But I'm finding that unless a home is priced well to a point where it's attracting the attention it deserves, even homes priced at market value are tending to sit. So in some cases it means a pricing strategy, and every situation specific to that needs that area. But in some cases, like we did for that Bellwood property in Maple, we priced it slightly below, attracted a lot of activity, and we ended up getting higher than asking price.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, doing a very thorough market evaluation, sitting with your realtor, planning the pros and the cons of pricing, maybe talking about a low, medium, high pricing strategy, all things that Team Ballas can do for you when pricing a home, but price your home properly.
That's right. We like the low, medium, high kind of, this is the higher end, this is the lower end. And yeah, everybody's circumstance is going to be different. But absolutely, I think it really comes down to if you don't want your house to sit, your first 2 weeks of exposure or your best chance of
There.
getting a house sold. So if your price is high, that's obviously not going to happen. Uh, Properties that are below the perceived market value
Exactly.
are absolutely going to go faster. And And then some sellers, like to believe that, no, if we give a little bit of negotiating room or we're going to be a bit firmer on the price, the reality is that that's just not going to fly. There's going to be no traffic, there's going to be no offer, and you can't negotiate an offer that you don't have. So you're gonna have to, if you're planning on selling, you're gonna have to make up your mind about the fact that it's gonna have to be below the market value for most
Yes.
cases, and you will get a lowball offer. We're seeing the average being 98% of the list to ask price,
If it's
uh,
priced
if
properly,
it's
though,
priced
because those are
properly.
the ones that are selling. Otherwise,
The ones that are
they're
selling.
sitting. You'll never get an offer unless you get people in the door. You need people in
That's
the
right.
door, so it needs to be priced properly. Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
Kind of leads back into this last one with
oh,
what pricing is that
yes.
are you obligated to accept an offer that you don't like? Perhaps it's not the closing date, perhaps it's a bit light on the money. So what are your options at that point?
Okay, great question. So I often get asked if I price it where you're saying or where I think the market is, and we get an offer that is, unconditional and it has no conditions, it's giving us our closing date, regardless, am I obligated to accept that? And the answer is no, a resounding no. You can They can be giving you exactly what you want in price and no conditions, but if the closing date doesn't work, the inclusions, I mean, any of the factors, you could still say, no, I've changed my mind, and you're not obligated to that offer. I mean, ideally, if you're putting your home on the market and you are offering it for a certain amount, we don't want to play any games where we're putting a fictitious below market value price. You saw a home listed in Prince Edward County for $1.
That's right.
It's so obvious what they were doing in that case. And I mean, so we offer $2 and we're doubling the asking price, but that's not the intention. So don't play games. If we get an offer, everything is still negotiable, and it's ultimately up to the seller to accept or reject the
And we
offer.
always negotiate. We don't let an offer die. If in the
No.
buyer's market, who knows when your next offer is
That's
going to
right.
be so.
Sometimes your first offer is your best offer, and it's best to try to negotiate. And it's at a certain point you're going to have to draw a line in the sand and say, "This is my best price.
Yep.
Take it or leave it." And
Don't get
both ways,
don't
right?
get
Buyers
attached to
those.
that initial
No,
low ball
try to
offer.
take emotion out of it. It's just
Yeah.
business. So great series of questions. Great monthly chat. And let's see how September. You going to be at my house for some tomatoes next weekend?
I'm hoping to.
All right, good stuff. Well, I mean, I'll give you some jars so you're set for the year, okay?
All right.
So, all right, so happy birthday to all those September babies,
Yeah. Happy
and
birthday to the September
we will see
babies.
you next month.
Janet Bergeroff, we wish you a happy birthday.
Thanks,
That's
Max.
tomorrow. Farewell.